Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Your Relationship With podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Snow. I'm a business strategist and a business relationship consultant for female entrepreneurs just like you. I am trying to change the face of the networking game so that it is not so salesy and sleazy and weird and fake and cold and transactional and gross. Can I get an amen? That is what I am all about. And I am also all about helping women just like you grow your business through genuine connections and awesome business relationships. So if you haven't heard, the Powerful Women Rising community has gotten a total makeover. It's been going for about 7 or 8 months, and I've learned a lot. I've gotten a lot of feedback about what people love and what we could do better. And it is relaunching in October as what I personally think is the best virtual networking group out there. And I know some of you are like, bleh, virtual. That's because you've never been to one of my virtual events. There is so much power in networking with women virtually because you have access to so much more wisdom and advice and support and so many more people's networks than just in your little town. So I highly recommend checking it out. We have a speed networking call every month. We have a mastermind call every month. We have an exclusive Facebook group. And there's also the option to up level to rockstar status where you get a whole bunch more benefits. So if you are ready to take your business to the next level and you want to do it with me and a whole bunch of other amazing women in your corner, definitely click on the show notes and check out the new and improved Powerful Women Rising community. I am on a wait list right now until the community opens up. And if you join the wait list and then you join the community from the wait list, you lock in a lower price than everyone else. So definitely get on that today. All right, here is today's interview. I am talking to one of my dear friends and also someone I've worked with and also someone I just saw speak last week. She's incredible. Her name is Jessica Millhiser. She is a business consultant here in Colorado, and she specializes in a blend of operations and human resources. What I love about Jessica is that so many of us got into business because we wanted to do our thing, not because we were experts at business, not because we knew how to establish a solid foundation in business and build from there, not because we knew all of the components that went into building and running a business. We just wanted to do our thing, right? We just wanted to make our stuff, coach our people, have our products, whatever it is. And Jessica is the expert in all of that adds the extra layer, really the foundational layer to your business. So what she does is help business owners and entrepreneurs get better organized, get more focused, and better prepared for internal growth. She is extremely passionate about this work. She loves helping women in business establish foundation that sets them up for success. So today we are talking about one of those things that needs to be part of your foundation if you want to be successful, and that is time management. This is a complicated topic, much more complicated than it should be, right? You just think, I have X number of hours a day. I will block out this many hours for this thing. That's exactly what I will do, and I will get all the things done. And I can tell you, as of this recording, it is 11:35 a.m., and so far my day has not gone even remotely according to that schedule. So maybe I need to listen to this interview again. All right, everybody, I hope that you enjoy this interview and check out the Powerful Women Rising community. Good morning, Jessica. Welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I am thrilled to have you here to talk to us about time management, such an important part of being a business owner. It makes me laugh when I think about it because I remember when I first went into business full time and I told my husband, like, just give me 3 months to see if I can actually make this business work. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not making money consistently in 3 months, I'll go get a job. And I'm like, it took me more time than that just to figure out how to manage my time, like to realize no one was going to make me get out of bed. No one cared if I wasn't sitting at the computer working. Like, I don't know what I thought was going to happen in 3 months, but it wasn't that.
Yeah, time management is one of those tricky things that you either get immediately right away or you really have to work to kind of find something that works for you.
Yeah. And it's tricky when you come from a foundation of either corporate or working for someone else or being in school or something like that, where the time is kind of managed for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't realize that time management is a challenge until it's time for you to manage your own time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, before we dive in, tell everybody a little bit about you and what you do and about your relationship with time management.
So I'm the owner of JMills Consulting, and basically everything that I do comes back to building that internal foundation. So your documentation, your business identity, time management and productivity, um, internal growth and operations, and just making sure that you have all the systems in place so that you can then go out and network and go out and get clients and go out and market and message, knowing that you've got the internal systems set up to sustain that growth that you're looking for. And time management for me, I will knock on wood, because luckily time management is something that I am naturally very good at. Like, I'm very organized. I have a really good routine in place. And I have a 3-step framework that I use personally and that I teach and that I use with my clients, and that I'll get into, more detail later. But I feel really good about my time management. And when I miss this routine that I've set up for myself, I feel that. I feel scattered. I feel distracted. I feel disorganized. So I make it a point to not miss that setup for myself, because it helps everything run much smoother.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about time management, what are we talking about really? Are we talking about like using a planner? Are we talking about time blocking? Are we talking about sitting down Monday morning and figuring out what we're going to do with every second of every day? Like, what is time management really?
So I like broad scope. Time management is you being in control of your time, how you're using it, what you're using it for, and not the other way around. So if you're not in control of your own time, you're going to feel distracted, scattered, frazzled, disorganized, all the things. You're going to be less organized, less productive. So broad scope, it is you are in control of how you're using your time. And there are tons of different tools out there to help you manage your time. So you can use a planner. You can use your Google Calendar on your phone. You can, time block. All of those things are options. You just need to find which one and which way works for you. And I think that is probably the more challenging part, is figuring out, well, what is my time management routine and what works for me, and what works for me in a way that will keep me consistent with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all know that life happens, right? Things come up, kids, pets, family, other obligations, whatever. And that's just part of life, and you have to pivot and figure that out. But if you have a set routine, it's easy to kind of come back into the fold from that.
Yeah. I think it's important too, before we keep talking about time management, one of the things I keep thinking when I'm listening to you talk is time management is also a whole different beast for a neurotypical person than it is for a neurodivergent person, right? So I have ADHD. It's like an inside joke in the ADHD community. Like, how many planners have you bought in your lifetime? Because we love to buy planners that we use for like a week and then never use again. In fact, I probably have like 25 of them in my drawer right now. And always trying to find different ways to organize, to keep track of our time, to be efficient, to stay on track. And I just want to kind of put that disclaimer out there before we keep talking about time management, because I think what you said is really important, is that one way of managing your time is not going to work for everybody, right? And so
Exactly.
I just don't want there to be any shame if people are listening and are like, I've tried that, like, I have tried them all. None of them have ever really stuck. I've got a new plan going here. It's these, you can't see them, but it's like a notepad, and each paper is a different day and has exactly what I need on it. So we just started that Monday. We'll see how that goes. But just know, if you're listening to this, whether you are neurotypical or neurodivergent, it's okay if you try some of the things that Jessica suggests and they don't work for you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. It's just some things work better for some people's minds than others, right?
Totally, 100%. And what I will say is, if you have to get to a place where you're ready to commit. So you're like, okay, I am committing to trying this time management routine for 3 or 4 weeks because it takes time. Like ultimately, a time management routine is building a habit. And it takes 3 or 4 weeks to really try and see if that habit develops for you and what that habit looks like. So if you're ready, if you're like, okay, I'm going to try whatever this routine is for 3 or 4 weeks, at the end of that time, I'm going to reevaluate what worked, what didn't work, what needs to be tweaked, make the tweaks, and then try it again for another 3 or 4 weeks. Because if you're trying something for just a week, it's not enough time. You need to really give it time to consistently commit to trying it. So I always say give it 3 or 4 weeks and then reassess and then keep going for another 3 or 4.
Yeah. And don't do what we like to do when we're trying to eat healthy, but then we have a brownie and we're like, well, fuck it. I had a brownie. I might as well have the pizza for dinner
And the whole
and an entire cake, right? Like just give up on life.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I've been guilty of with time management is like, I miss a day or I miss 3 days of writing in my planner or time blocking, or I don't follow what I said I was going to do. And then I'm like, okay, forget it. This isn't working. Right. So it's okay if you miss a day, if you miss a week, whatever, to pick it back up. You don't have to just like throw the whole bicycle out just because you have a flat tire.
Yeah, just get back on it and try it again. Like nobody's perfect. And like I said, things come up, but like try to commit to that 3 or 4 week period as best you can and then evaluate.
Awesome. So what do you think are some of the most common reasons that female business owners struggle with time management?
So I would say there are multiple things, probably. I feel like as women, we are more concerned with others than we are ourselves. So like if you have kids, if you're taking care of family in whatever way that looks like, if you have maybe you have another job or another responsibility, like we're always kind of taking care of others first, which means that we suffer and our priorities are usually last. So I think that's a big thing. I think maybe it's also we just haven't found a routine or system that works for us yet. And that can be tricky because it can be discouraging. So it's like, well, I tried this and I tried this and I tried this. None of them worked. I guess I just suck at time management. And try not to get stuck in that framework. Just be like, okay, I've tried this and I've tried this and I've tried this and it didn't work. Let me try something different. Just keep going because there will be something that clicks. And then I also think a big part of it is figuring out, like, let me reframe. Time is finite. Right? Like time is this finite thing. It's the only finite resource that we have. And if we are not spending it in alignment with what our priorities are, then that means we are out of alignment. So figuring out how am I spending my time currently? Does it align with what I'm trying to do? Does it align with my priorities? That's like step number one. If it is, awesome. Keep trying the things until you find the system. If it doesn't align, then you need to figure out what the misstep is. Like, why am I spending my time this way if it's not a priority for me? So I think also just kind of sitting down with yourself, being like really real with yourself and being like, what are my priorities? What do I care about? What am I trying to work to achieve right now? And then recalibrate the way that you spend your time to like move towards that.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that I found super helpful about my time working with you and getting really clear on the mission and vision and values of Powerful Women Rising, my company, was then when you're looking at time management, when you're looking at, okay, I have these 2 options or these 10 options sometimes of how I could spend this time. Which of these is aligned with my mission, vision, and values, and which of them isn't, right? I mean, a lot of times we talk about spending your time on money producing activities, which is important.
Yes.
And also another way to look at it is, are the things that we're spending our time on aligned with our mission, vision, and values, right? Because that also accounts for our family, our friends, nature, things that are the other things that are important to us that might not be. We don't need to be focused on nonstop income producing activity. That's a really good recipe for burnout. But being clear on what those values are is really going to help you, I think, make more intentional decisions about how you're spending your time.
Exactly. 100%.
Probably make setting boundaries around your time easier, right? Because you realize in saying no to this thing, which doesn't align, I'm saying yes to the things that do align, which is huge.
Exactly. And I think that is something that sometimes gets lost in the day-to-day shuffle. Like you're so consumed with getting it through the day, figuring out what needs to happen, putting out fires, trying this thing, helping this person, whatever, that you kind of lose focus on what actually matters to you. So if you're in that phase, if you're in that space right now where you're feeling unfocused and you're feeling distracted, sit down, brain dump, meditate, do yoga, take a walk, whatever, and be like, okay, I need to refocus. What matters to me? What's a priority to me? Where am I trying to go? Like, what do I need to be doing? And then refocus your time, making decisions. Like time management is part making decisions.
Yeah.
I'm saying yes to this thing. I'm saying no to this thing because of how it will impact my quality of life, my business, my family, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's a lot of value in taking time periodically to evaluate how you are spending your time. And if that's how you want to be spending your time. I do this to my husband all the time, and it's his least favorite thing ever. He's like, God, I'm just so busy. I got so much to do and there's just not enough time. And I'm like, look on your phone and tell me your screen time for the day. He's like, shut up, don't talk to me. But I do that to myself too, right?
Yeah.
There's times that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get anything done. And then the end of the day, I look and I'm like, oh, but I managed to find 4.5 hours to spend on my phone today. Like, what is happening? And I see people do the same thing with networking too. We fill our calendars with networking. I'm going to go to all these events. I'm going to do all these one-on-ones. I'm going to have coffee with all these people. I'm going to send handwritten letters to follow, right? Like, and then we're at the end of the week, we're like, oh, I worked so hard on my business this week. But like, did you really?
Yeah.
Or did you really
It depends on what it depends on what your priority is. Like if you're in a visibility phase, then sure, networking and all those things is important. But more often than not, like you need to be doing back end stuff like administration, documentation, like planning and prioritizing and path making and all of these other things in addition to the networking. Because networking alone isn't going to grow your business.
Right. And that's a great point too, is that sometimes your priorities are going to change. And so sometimes the way that you manage your time is going to change. Like
totally.
I'm always telling my clients, like we don't have to be networking 24/7. Like there can be months and months and months where you're not doing any. And then there's months where you're maybe not as busy with one-on-one clients, or you don't have as many projects going or whatever. And that's the time for you to be out meeting people. So being able to evaluate periodically how you're spending your time and if that's still working for you, I think is super important.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you suggest I'm getting a little bit into the mindset realm here, but I know it's a huge struggle for so many women to balance how much time they're spending on their business and how much time they're spending on their family or their partner or their children or their pets. Like, do you have any suggestions for people who might be struggling to find that balance?
Yeah, that's one that I think is constantly fluid. And I think, as we've kind of talked about different phases of business and different phases of life, like there will be seasons of your business where you are really grinding and you are like working on that internal foundation, working on that networking, working on that visibility. And that's kind of like where you are. But the goal is that once you kind of invest that time more up front, the goal is then that you will have a better balance for the remainder of the time. So I feel like personally running a business, I'm still kind of new myself. I'm only about 1.5 years in, like officially. And I am still definitely in a phase where I am trying to build it. And if you're in a building phase, you're kind of grinding, right? But the goal is that, cool, now I've got my foundation set. I feel really good about my messaging and my marketing and all the external things. You should be able to kind of reshift that balance to focusing on family, focusing on health, focusing on lifestyle. So I think just be really cognizant about what that means for you, because everybody's bandwidth is different. Everybody's burnout line is different. So I think take the breaks when you need to take the breaks, go for the walk, meditate, exercise, have a date night, date lunch, whatever. Just really try to tune in to what feels right for you and lean into that. Like if you're like, wow, I'm feeling really burnt, I need to take a day or two off. Great, take the day or two off. Oh, I've just worked on this project for like 3 or 4 hours. I need to take like a 90-minute break. Do that. Really try to just listen to your body, to your gut, to your intuition, because that will tell you where your kind of burnout meter is at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that answer the question, kind of?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, I think it was a big question to ask
It is a
you
big
to answer
question.
in 30 seconds. And I think too, like what you said, it doesn't always have to be something huge, right? It doesn't have to be like, oh, I got to find a way to take 5 days off to go on vacation with my family, or I'm a terrible mother. It can be just, after I finish this part of the project, I'm going to take 20 minutes and go push Timmy on the swings or whatever, right? Like there's sometimes in my day, like today is one of those days that when I go outside to water my flowers, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, the world exists. Like there's sunshine and air and grass, and it's going to be so glorious. And I'm going to be out there for like 10 minutes. And sometimes that's enough.
Yes.
And that kind of takes the pressure off, I think, of like, oh, I have to get 10 billion things done so I can spend 10 billion hours with my family. Like you can break it down into smaller pieces.
And I also think understanding how your natural rhythm is. Like if you're somebody that has kids, maybe you don't start working until 10 a.m. Like maybe you do the kid thing and do the breakfast, do the school run, whatever that looks like, get them all set for the morning, and then you can start your day. So I think figuring out like what your family dynamic is, figuring out what your natural rhythm as a human, as an entity, as a household looks like, and then kind of working in and around that would be helpful too.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some things, we just talked about many of them, but what are some other things that people who are listening to this podcast can start doing right now to try to improve their time management?
So I think one of the things would be getting really serious about what your priorities are. Like if you're somebody that's maybe feeling like you're not managing your time very well right now, sit down with yourself, journal or meditate, and just be like, what matters to me? What's important? Where do I need to be making changes in how I'm currently spending my time? So that's something that you can do right away so you get real clarity on that. And then if you're somebody that's like, I would like to start trying a time management routine, but I don't know where to start, I'm just going to kind of quickly share my 3-step framework to at least give you a jumping off point. Try it, don't try it, whatever works for you. But basically, it's a 3-step framework where you start with pre-week prep. So every Sunday, I spend about 30 to 60 minutes on this 3-step framework. So step number 1 is pre-week prep. Take a look at your week ahead. Figure out what time is already managed, is already allocated, whether it's family, personal, clients, networking, meetings, like whatever is already on your calendar, that's already time that's being managed for you. What do you have open for white space? Step number 2 is prioritizing. So I break the prioritizing block into 3 columns: your must, your bonus, your push. So your must column is anything that you absolutely need to get done this week. It has a deadline, it has a due date, there's non-negotiable, it must be done. That's your must. Your bonus are the things that are not super urgent this week, but are upcoming. And it's like, I'd like to get a jump on this. I'd like to start working on this. Those are your bonus items if you have some extra time. Your push column is going to be those pesky, annoying little things that are not urgent, not time sensitive, maybe not super important. So you either need to decide, this is not important, I'm taking it off in general, period. Or you've kicked it long enough, you need to push it to your must column and just get it done. So step 2, must, bonus, push priorities. And then the final step is number 3, which is time blocking. I do not time block everything, but I do time block my musts. So anything in my must column, I'm like, okay, I'm spending 30 minutes on this thing. I'm spending 60 minutes on this thing. Maybe I'll spend 90 minutes on this thing. I don't do more than 90 because that's plenty, but be specific with that time block. Like, I'm literally doing this thing for this 30 minutes so that you don't have to think about it. It's already built into your calendar. So that's the 3-step framework: pre-week prep, prioritizing, time blocking. So try it 3 or 4 weeks, tweak as needed, and, try something else if that doesn't work. But that works for me. And if I miss it, I really do feel it.
Yeah, that's great advice. And that's something that I do too, is like, what are the things I absolutely have to get done today, or even like the rest of this week, and put them on my calendar. I feel like that frees up so much space in my brain, because now my brain isn't like, and remember that thing you have to do, and that thing, and that thing, when are you going to do that thing? I don't have to think about any of that. I'm just like, it's on my calendar. I can't forget it. I can't not do it, because there it is. And I think that's super helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And the clients that I use it with, they're like, this has really been a game changer for me, because it breaks the overly long to-do lists into more accessible bite-sized pieces. Like, you don't want to get overwhelmed. You're like, here are my priorities. Here's what I need to focus on today and this week.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good point too, is if you have some big project, like let's say you want to start a podcast, we're not putting start a podcast on our must list, right? Like that's not an action step. That's like 95 action steps.
Yes.
That's another thing that's very helpful, is to try to break it down into smaller steps and more specific steps. Like maybe all you're concerned about today is like researching the equipment that you'll need and purchasing it, right? So you're going to put that on your calendar. Or maybe you've got that all figured out. You just want to start an outline for your first episode or record your first episode, right? Like break it down into smaller pieces. Cause that's something I think I was guilty of when I first started time blocking, was just like, okay, I'll block out 6 hours this afternoon for social media posts, right?
Oh,
like,
God.
First of all, 6 hours, that was a very bad example and a big exaggeration also. But like 6 hours, number one, is too long to be doing anything. But also, like, this is one of the things that I'm always trying to get the women in the Powerful Women Rising community to do when they set their intentions for the week, is like, I want to, like, this week I'm going to get a client, or this week I'm going to schedule my social media posts. Okay, but how many and how far in advance and on what platform, right? Like, be as specific as possible in what you're putting on that list.
So there is always that investment, that time investment up front. And that's why, like, I like the pre-week prep, because it makes you sit down, and it doesn't take long. Like, once you've developed the habit, it takes you like 30 or 45 minutes. Cool. Now I'm organized. Now I'm focused. Now I know exactly what I'm working on and how I'm spending my time this week.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. So if anybody wants to connect with you, which I highly recommend, like I said, I've worked with Jessica. It was a great experience, super helpful in getting aligned with my mission, vision, and values, which was something that I just thought, like, I know what my business is. I know what my why is. I know what we're doing, but that really has been a game changer, having those things in place, especially when it comes to making decisions. They don't feel as hard anymore, because you're just like, you've got the answer right there. So is this aligned or is it not aligned? Anyway, I'm on a tangent.
I love that. I'm so happy that we did that, though. I'm so happy.
She's like, feel free to go on a tangent about how amazing I am anytime.
Continue. Thank you.
But if you want to connect with Jessica or find out more about what she does and the services that she offers, what's the best way for them to do that?
So my website is jmillsconsulting.com. All of my services and some about me is on there. You can also email me, jessica@jmillsconsulting.com. I'm very active on Instagram. My handle is @jmills_consulting. And I'm also very active on LinkedIn at Jessica Millhiser. So feel free, like, I also offer a free consultation. So if any of this is resonating, or you need help with internal foundation stuff, like, let's connect, let's get something scheduled and talk it out.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Jessica. This has been great.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. I always love chatting with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Your Relationship With podcast. If you love this podcast, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Also, if you're listening on an iPhone, go to the review section and leave a review for the Your Relationship With podcast. I love hearing from you guys and knowing what you think about the podcast, and it helps so many other women just like you find the podcast and get the information that they need to grow their business. Also, don't forget to check out the Powerful Women Rising community. I want to see you in there. Have a great week.